On this episode of Locked On Angels, Andrew Heaney pitched against the Angels, and it went exactly how we all thought it would go. Plus, Angels management made a decision about the game time for tonight, and the Angels players are not too happy about it. Oh boy, it's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM. Just search Locked On Angels. If you want to give back for the Super Halo Bros, for all this Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do to help us out. Leave us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts. We love reading those. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and become a Locked On Everydayer with us. We're almost to 10,000. Can you believe it? Crazy. 10K. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube. Leave a comment in today's episode. We'd love to hear from you because I feel like we all have something to say after that putrid performance last night against the Pirates. It's the best way to get in touch with us and be part of the conversation. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers normally, but Mike was at the game last night, so I'm running solo on this one. My name is John Frisch. I'm one half of the Super Halo Bros and one half of the hosts of Locked On Angels. I do this with my brother Mike. We have a good time. We love talking Angels baseball. We've been fans of this team for years. No matter how much they frustrate us, we're here talking Angels baseball with you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, every single weekday. On today's show, what do the Halos do with Kyrenn Paris? Because he's been struggling. How do they fix that? Did the Angels schedule tonight's game for a later start just to make some extra cash? Oh boy, you're not going to believe what we have in store in that conversation. But first, let's recap this game. Andrew Heaney absolutely embarrassed his former team in the Halos. You knew how this was going to go. We talked about it yesterday. We said he's either going to blow up or throw a no-hitter. Well, he did pretty much that and came close to it in this game last night. The most back and forth, up and down pitcher the Angels clung to for years came back to the Big A, and you knew, we all knew how this was going to go. Heaney made the Angels look like absolute idiots in the batter's box. He strikes out the first 6 batters, almost sets a Pirates record for the most strikeouts to start a game. Skenes has it with 7, by the way. Here's what I couldn't understand. Heaney's throwing 89 to 91 miles per hour with fastballs right down the middle. And these guys are swinging through it. What am I looking at? What am I watching? So I did a little bit of digging. You know me. I got to find an answer to this. Andrew Heaney has the 4th best spin rate on his fastball in the league. By the way, Tyler Anderson has the 8th best. So that's how these guys get away with throwing 89 and fooling guys at the plate. But this is why he's throwing meatballs, batting practice fastballs, and the Angels aren't hitting it. He's got an above average horizontal break for lefty pitchers and about an average induced vertical break. This means where you think the ball is going, by your eyes, by your judgment, where you think it's going and where it ends up are 2 very different things. So the guys are swinging right under it every time. But come on. This is not an excuse, guys. This is not an excuse. Andrew Heaney has a great fastball, according to the numbers, according to the spin rate, all that stuff. It's deceptive. I get that. But did it change when Andrew Heaney left the mound? No. The Angels couldn't get anything going last night. Mike was at the game. He texted me and said this: I can see every swing from my seat. Same swing, every inning, no bunts, no choking up, no shortening swings, the same approach on every at-bat. This Angels team had 12 strikeouts, no walks, Mike Trout struck out 3 times. And listen to this. Jack Kohanowitz, 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs. That's a quality start, people. That's a quality start, Angels. And you gave him nothing. Reed Detmers, who we all know has been up and down. He's just like Andrew Heaney was with the Angels. Detmers comes in. 2 innings pitched in relief. 4 strikeouts. And you know what he did? He threw the fastball at the top of the zone and got all 4 strikeouts on that fastball at the top of the zone. Who's been preaching that for the last, 8 episodes? Finally, somebody does it, but it's not the starter. But that's neither here nor there because Jack Kohanowitz had a great start anyway. And here's the other thing. Before this game, the Angels DFA'd Ian Anderson. You're welcome for that. Brought up Carl Edwards Jr. He's a journeyman pitcher for the Pen. Victor Medeiros was brought up as well. They just needed fresh arms in the bullpen. Michael Darrell Hicks was optioned back to AAA. This is something that you have the luxury of doing when you have guys that have options. So that's what this is. They changed the lineup, people. Soler was moved to leadoff in hopes that that's going to get him going. And we've shared that historically, it's one of his best spots in the order. He takes more walks. He hits really well there. You'd think that a guy who's had success at the top of the order would maybe take some walks, see a few pitches, foul some things off. You'd think that. But he had a 4-pitch at bat to start the game. And how did it end up? A strikeout. You had Neto at 2, Trout at 3, Ward at 4. Again, Taylor Ward in the cleanup spot. That's great. It's one of his best spots in the order. But did it matter? No, it didn't matter because nobody was on base for him to even do any damage with. The only hits in this game came from Travis d'Arnaud, who was batting 5th again, by the way. He hit a double. Jorge Soler, he also had a double later in the game. Nolan Shonowell reached on an error. That's it. Those are all the base runners. Everybody that got on base. Jorge Soler, Travis d'Arnaud, and Nolan Shonowell. And I'll admit, I'm sitting here watching this game. And so I tweeted from Locked On Angels. I said, how in the world are these guys missing these meatball fastballs right down the middle, 89, 90 miles an hour from Andrew Heaney? And I believe it was Locked On Every Day or Berksa said, Johnny Washington's fault. And I said, man, if these guys can't hit 89 miles an hour, then no hitting coach is going to help them. But I've changed my tune on that. You know why? Because let me tell you what spoke volumes to me. So Berksa, you're correct. I was wrong. You're right. Let me tell you what spoke volumes. Not one of them changed their approach. Mike was there, and he could see it from his seat. No one made any swing adjustments. No one shortened up. No one went with the pitch, maybe hit it the other way. Same approach every time. They sit up there and they close their eyes and they pray that they make contact. We joked about Matt Thaiss the last couple seasons, and we called it his A button swing because on the show, whatever button you push can be the type of swing you want to do, a power swing, a foul off swing, a contact swing. We joke about that with Matt Thaiss, but this team is pushing the same button and doing the same swing every dang time. And did you watch, guys? Did you watch what the lowly Pirates did? They went with pitches. They made adjustments. They took things the other way. They didn't have one extra base hit other than O'Neal Cruz's solo home run. Brian Reynolds, sacrifice fly, drives in a run, right? Go watch how they performed. And you can even look up the StatCast matchups, and you could see that this lefty hitter hit it out to Taylor Ward in left field the opposite way because the Pirates were making contact. They were going with pitches, making adjustments, taking things the other way. And again, they win. because they actually changed their approach at the plate. So what do they do now? What do the Halos do? They tried to shake up the lineup. That didn't work. When's the closed door meeting? We had 46 of those in the first 8 days of the season last year. This is great. Jeff Fletcher of the OC Register tweeted, the Angels are hitting 186 over the last 11 games, of which they are 3-8. Locked On Angels Hall of Famer, former host Brent McGuire, writes for MLB.com. He tweeted this, Angels hitters through the first 12 games versus the last 11 games. Listen to this list. 65 runs versus 26. That's the first 12 games versus the last 11 games. Runs per game, 5.42 versus 2.36. Batting average, 241 versus 186. On-base percentage, 312 versus 228. Slugging, 460 versus 318. Home runs, 24 versus 10. And we're still acting like we're that 24 home run team when they're absolutely not. Hits, 107 hits versus 65. Strikeouts, oh boy, listen to this, 98 in those first 12 games versus 122 in the last 11 games. The K percentage, 21.1 in the first 12 games versus 33.1. 38 walks versus 14. Walk rate, 8.2% versus 3.8% in the last 11 games. What are Tim Laker and Johnny Washington doing? Look, I'm not an advocate for fire this guy, fire that guy, but I'm there now. Because if I was this bad at my job, if my label had something to do with the performance of somebody else and I was in charge of that, I would have been fired yesterday. If you were this bad at your job and people weren't performing the way that they were supposed to and you were in charge of that, you would be fired too, friends. It's absolutely ridiculous. There comes a point where Major League ball players cannot be this bad. There's a whole lot more talent on this team than the Colorado Rockies, and they're not this bad. There's a whole lot more talent on this team than the Pirates, and apparently they're not this bad. There's a whole lot more talent on this team than the White Sox, and they're not this bad. Here's my last point. Perry Minasian fired Joe Maddon after a 12-game losing streak. That streak went on to 14, but Joe Maddon got fired at Game 12. After Game 12. So Game 12 is today. It's tonight, actually. And if the same thing happens again, is this when we fire the hitting coach and the offensive coordinator? Because it's offensive to me. It's offensive to you. Something has to give. We have to do something. You put together a pretty good team over this offseason. I think it's very underrated. And I think, I think they can sneak into the playoffs with the talent on this team. But whatever the heck these guys are preaching, it's not working. Whatever the heck Johnny Washington and Tim Laker are telling these guys to do, it's not working. So when's the hook? When do you shake things up again? When is the closed door meeting? If after tonight the Angels do this again, Johnny Washington and Tim Laker better not be on that plane to Minnesota. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, the Halos schedule a late game today, and it's supposed to be a getaway day because they have a flight to catch to Minnesota to play the Twins this weekend, and the players are not happy about it. We're going to talk about that coming right up. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Amazon Fire TV, bringing you endless entertainment with 4K streaming. You could watch more than 1 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services. In addition to that, your Fire TV can also be an Xbox. You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab a controller, subscribe, and sign into Xbox Game Pass. You can also get EA Play included with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. and you're ready to play, you can dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple. It's all on your Fire TV. So head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube third generation. This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And we thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Look, I got this cool Locked On hockey puck. It's like a stress ball if you're watching on the video side. And this is what I need, because not only did last night's game tick me off, this story that came out from Sam Blum of The Athletic yesterday also ticked me off. So here's what's going down. The Angels are playing at a new start time tonight, 6:29 p.m. Why is that? It's usually 6:38 because it's the last minute allowed for them to start a game per the collective bargaining agreement. What in the world am I talking about? Here's what's going down. The Angels play in Minnesota on Friday. And usually the game before a flight is what's called a getaway game. Now, this probably isn't news to you. You're an everydayer. You understand that. So sorry if I'm John-splaining things, right? But just to catch everybody up to speed. Usually you have a getaway game. Usually, instead of playing at night, you play in the afternoon, 1:05 start time, right? Usually like when they play on Sundays. Angels management decided to have a night game, and they chose this start time. Sam Blum of The Athletic brought this issue to light in his article yesterday, and here's what he had to say. Players, they're not happy about it. Mike Trout said it's not ideal. I don't know when we're supposed to land, but it's going to be early. We've got to play that night, and the worst part about it is the next day is a day game. Kenley Jansen, who's been around the block, future Hall of Famer, 4-time All-Star, says, I don't think it's healthy for anybody to finish playing a night game like that, get in at 6 a.m, then you've got 7 o'clock game, and the next couple days you have 1 o'clock games. It's definitely not fair. Taylor Ward said, I don't think it should be allowed, to be honest. I think there should definitely be rules in place to prevent that because it's kind of crazy. And here's the thing. The Angels brass, the management that decided to have this game at 6:29 was very intentional. Because you know how we know that? It technically, quote unquote, follows the rules. For the Angels and the Twins, the league and the union agreed that a flight should take about 3 hours and 1 minute. The collective bargaining agreement states that the latest possible start time for getaway games will be determined by taking the portion of the in-flight time that exceeds 2.5 hours and subtracting that amount from 7 p.m. Hence, 6:29 p.m., 31 minutes. Because the flight takes 3 hours and 1 minute, and the rule is 2.5 hours. Anything beyond that, minus 7 p.m., is when you can start a getaway game. Squeezing this stress puck. I like that. So that's why this game is starting at 6:29. Why would they do this? Well, here's what Sam had to say in his article. The later the start time on weekdays, the higher attendance and more revenue generated. That seems like a given, right? A night game, more fans are going to show up, less people are in school, at work, etc. And John Carpino, team president, Artie's partner in crime, had this to say in 2019 when he told the LA Times, it's a pretty big difference. We're trying to balance player health and well-being, he added, with fans being able to see high-profile teams. So did the Angels brass just put their players at a severe disadvantage to earn a few more bucks on a Thursday night? Well, obviously, yes. The start time tells you everything you need to know. They looked into it, and they followed the rules. They specifically went out of their way to do this. But the fact that they're following the rules, it shows you where their priorities lie. not with the team, not with their well-being, not with the actual players who people pay to see, because the Angels have already been putrid. I can't imagine what they're going to be like in Minnesota, having an overnight flight, landing 11 hours before first pitch on Friday night. You got to be at the stadium. You got to warm up. You got to do drills. You got to do all that stuff. You got to do batting practice. You got to get in the cages. Absolutely ridiculous. But what's high profile about tonight's game with the Pirates? You know what they tried to do? They knew that Paul Skenes was the opening day starter. And so somebody in Angels management went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Paul Skenes start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Paul Skenes start. They literally counted and figured out that, oh, when the Pirates come to town, Paul Skenes is going to start on Thursday. Let's move the start date to the start time to 6:29 so we can get more fans to come watch Paul Skenes. I get it. He's a local kid. He's from the area. Grew up an Angels fan. You've heard enough about that on FanDuel about how he's an Angels fan. We got these long shots of Paul Skenes' face instead of the action on the field for about 20, 30 seconds at a time. But you know what happened? The Pirates moves Paul Skenes' start to Friday night to face the Dodgers in Los Angeles. So no Paul Skenes on the mound in tonight's game. And I mentioned this before, the Angels are going to land about 11 hours before first pitch on Friday night. They lose hours going to Central Time. They have to fly out of LAX because there's a plane curfew out of Long Beach and John Wayne Airport. And we all know this because this was the excuse for why they were playing bad. They just finished playing 15 out of 18 games on the road. So way to piss off your players, Angels. Way to put them at a disadvantage, Angels. Considering how bad they've been playing, I, for one, am not looking forward to this Twin Series, that's for sure. Scheduling this game and giving them little to no time to rest is absolutely absurd, especially with how they're struggling. Because you wanted to have a few more people in the seats. Because you thought Paul Skenes was going to start. And the Pirates duped you and moved his start back to face the Dodgers. You know why they did that? Because they want to beat the Dodgers on Friday night, so they're running out their best pitcher out there. Maybe the Angels could learn a thing or two from the Pirates and how they manage their team, how they manage their players, and how they hit baseballs in the batter's box. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Look, I just went to an Angel game this past weekend. This is before they ticked me off on Wednesday night and also before this ridiculous article came out. I got to take my buddy for his birthday. I mentioned that. I met some of you there. I use Gametime to get us there. And if you're looking to go last minute, Gametime makes getting tickets easier than ever before. You can get last minute deals, all in pricing, the lowest price guarantee. Take the stress out of buying tickets to MLB games. Plus, ticket prices drop as the game gets closer, which means you can score incredible deals. Gametime has their Gametime Picks feature, makes finding the best deals effortless, filters out all the fluff, and highlights the top discounts in the stadium. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. I need a breather. Man, I don't know if you guys have seen me this angry before. And this is like, I don't get angry. That's, I don't get mad, but like, I'm pretty ticked off now. And fortunately, Mike's not here to witness it, but he's seen me mad. Look, we're going to end our show today with a conversation of what do we do with Kairen Paris entering last night's game. Kyren Paris is 1 for his last 20 with 13 strikeouts. He had an offer. Yesterday, he had 1 strikeout, so he's up to 14 now. What do you do with Kyren Paris? Here's what Ron Washington had to say. We've got to take care of that kid. I don't ever want him to not have the confidence that he has right now. Now, Kyren Paris has said that he noticed teams are throwing him a lot more sinkers in on the hands, but he said his swing is feeling great. He added that his struggle is just simple pitch selection. He's looking to get pitches over the heart of the plate. Wash said he'd like to see Paris make adjustments. He's been successful the way he's been going at it. And now he's beginning to understand the game is about adjusting and readjusting, adjusting and readjusting, adjusting and readjusting. Wash's words, not my emphasis. So if that's the case, why did I just rant in this first 13 minutes of the show about how badly the Angels have been at readjusting? Wash sees it. Ron Washington. Apparently Johnny Washington doesn't see it. Apparently Tim Laker doesn't see it. Or maybe each of these players are just blind, right? Because that's the only other explanation. Blind or stupid because they're not making adjustments. I highly doubt that's the case. These are professional ball players. So whatever's being preached to them is absolutely not working. And if Wash sees it, he's not an idiot. He's a veteran. This is a game of adjustments. When pitchers figure you out at the plate, you adjust. And you keep adjusting until you can hit that pitcher again. Hitters adjust to the pitcher, pitchers adjust to the hitters, and back and forth, and so on it goes. So the days of our lives, sand in the hourglass, right? There's a reference for you. But I bring all this up because what are the Angels going to do with Kyren Paris? Obviously, he needs to make adjustments. Obviously, he needs to work on his two-strike approach because, again, it's the same swing no matter the count. But do you keep giving him at-bats? Do you put Tim Anderson in at second? Kevin Newman at second? Does Kyren need a day off? Feels like they tried that already. Does he go back to being the fourth outfielder? When Moncada comes back, do you have Moncada at third again and Rengifo at second? At least Yoan Moncada, before he got hurt, would actually take a walk. In fact, that's all he did to start the season. A lot more than some of these other guys have done over the last 11 games. At least Yoan Moncada could get on base. So what do you do with Kyren Paris? Well, last night he was batting 8th in the order. I don't know if that does anything for him, because he comes up in situations where he would very much like to come through. But I also think that somebody like Kyren Paris, who got off to a hot start, tremendous start, everybody in MLB is talking about him. He's leading the league in OPS, doing all that stuff, and he deserved it. I'm not taking anything away from Kyren Paris. The guy went out and sought out Aaron Judge's hitting instructor over the offseason. You've heard us tell this story. You've heard this story a million times, right? But that tells me this guy cares. He knew he wasn't going to be an everyday major leaguer starter, so he went out and did something about it. Maybe they need to bring that guy in. Maybe they need to bring in Aaron Judge's hitting coach to come fix some of these guys, to change their approach at the plate. When it comes to Kyren Paris, there was a time where you couldn't have him not in the lineup. But he struggled. And so we don't have enough information to go, well, is he a streaky hitter? Is he going to be hot for a while and then cool off and then get hot again? We don't know, because this is an entirely different Kyren Paris than who's been in the minor leagues and who's been in the majors in years past. But what I do know is that putting him 8th in the lineup doesn't help. Putting him 9th doesn't help. Putting him in a low-pressure spot in the order, that doesn't help yet. Doesn't matter if he's playing center field or second base. I'm happy to see that he's gotten this much playing time. I'm sad that he's struggling, and I'm not going to hold that against him because, like I said at the top of the show, what are we doing? Who's telling these guys what to do in the batter's box? Who's preaching whatever nonsense that they're preaching? Obviously, it's Johnny Washington and Tim Laker. Again, I'm not a guy who, after 3 games says, fire these guys. But like I mentioned before, we're on game 12 of somebody doing a really bad job at their job, the one thing they were hired for. And again, you and I would be held to a much lower threshold in our work lives. If I gave you 10-minute episodes of Locked On Angels, I wouldn't be doing my job. If I did that 11 days in a row, 12 days in a row, yeah, I think Locked On would give me the boot. And so for Tim Laker and Johnny Washington to be in charge of this and let Kyren Paris have the issues that he's been having, should have never happened. Should have never happened. So what do you do with Kyren Paris? I don't know. I'll put that out to you guys. In fact, we got a Fan Mail Friday coming up. I'd love to hear your comments in the YouTube comments. Maybe you can DM us on Instagram or Twitter or send us a tweet. Send us a voicemail because I want to hear your frustrations and find out if you're as frustrated as I am. But what do you do with Kyren Paris? I don't have the answer other than I'm not going to hold it against him. I'm going to hold it against the offensive coordinator and the hitting coach. Great titles. Not a great job. Be better because you're not making it happen. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Hey, if you haven't checked it out already, we have a show, MLB Game Night, that goes live on the MLB YouTube channel right after the last out of the last game. I'm there 3 days a week. You guys know we love Lindsey Crosby, who has been on the show, works a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. He and I did a show last night together, super fun. And he hosts during the week. And then, of course, we have the great Steve Lennox, who does postcasts for Boston sports on Locked On Podcast Network. It's so much fun, and we'd love to see you there. You can get it on YouTube live. It goes on the podcast feed shortly thereafter that. So if you like the audio version, that's a lot of fun too. But you get all the local experts of Locked On, including myself, including Mike, telling you how these games went, breaking it down for you every night after the last game and the last out. Hey, be sure you give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show, get in the comment section. I want to hear from you because tomorrow is a Fan Mail Friday. We're not going to be able to recap the Pirates game because of scheduling conflicts, because the Angels had to move this game to 6/29. And so we're just going to do a Fan Mail Friday. And of course, you can keep up with us on social media. We'll be tweeting about the game. We'll be talking about the game. So don't miss out there as well. But send in your questions for Fan Mail Friday. We have our voicemail line, of course. You can find that number in the episode description. We'd love to hear from you. And again, get in the comments section and write us there on YouTube. Until then, my name is John, and my brother Mike will be back with us on Fan Mail Friday. Thank you for letting me rant. I hope that this was cathartic for some of you because it was very cathartic for me as well. I look forward to Fan Mail Friday, and we'll see you back here on Friday. Freaking Mike. This is all his fault. He had to go to the game. Now I'm 0-1, and he's 0-1.